This is incorporated in that handout. So if you grab that, you'll see this. And the objective is to get in the green. The objective is to get yourself known by the people that are associated. They're the folks on the right-hand side, the contracting officer, the program, the technical, and the administrator. They're the people that you need to get to know you. And more importantly, you want to get ahead of these RFPs, be 60 days plus ahead of the RFPs, so that you know what's happening out in the marketplace. If you're the incumbent, obviously you're in the green because you have internal inside information. And making sure that the contract's in your sweet spot, and most importantly, getting your information spec'd into the scope of work. And that's what's critical for what we're doing here. And in order to develop winnable opportunities, first you have to think about opportunities differently. We need to change the way that we operate. And if you grab that, you can see, you can grab your worksheet and you can start filling this out. The difference between an opportunity versus the people. Opportunities come from people. They're not vaporized they don't come from the ether. Somebody has a need and somebody has something that they have to do. So that's what we want to do. We want to adjust our mindset from chasing opportunities that hit the street to looking at the people behind those opportunities. So opportunities come from people, and people buy from people they like. They have buying patterns, they have buying preferences. We had somebody on last week on a How to Go Federal webinar series. We talked exactly about this. Knowing and understanding how they operate so that you are hitting them and resonating with them with what they do, not with what you do necessarily, but looking at how they prefer to buy. If they prefer to buy off a GSA schedule, great, that's a good thing. If they prefer to buy off of eBuy, great, that's a good thing. If they prefer to buy off of some other contract vehicle, isn't it important for you to know what that is and then be able to develop a relationship with somebody that has that contract vehicle, or get that contract vehicle yourself? Of course you would. So those are the preferences that we're looking for from these folks. So opportunities come from people. Winnable opportunities come from people who like us. It's just that simple. They're definitely not going to buy from you if they don't like you, right? You don't buy from people you don't like. Why would somebody else buy from you if they don't like you or if they don't know you? You got to be able to get out there and proactively go after folks to get them to like you. And here's a recap from what we did last month. So understanding the key decision makers. Every one of these folks, administrators, right? You have the administrative folks up at the top. They're the ones, political appointees sometimes down in the SES level. But then it gets down to the program folks and the project management folks. Then you have the technical representatives, CORs, COTARs, whatever you want to call them. Then you have the contracting officers, CO, KO, depending on the agency. But these are the folks that you want to be able to reach out to. And remember, every one of these folks have a different role. They have different needs associated with their roles and what it is they're required to be able to do to perform for this particular project. And they have different reasons for making decisions, and they have different motives behind those decisions. Some of these are personal motives, and some of these are professional motives. And if you start to understand what they do every day, like for instance, contracting folks, don't pitch them on how great you are and all the best things that you do in the world. They want to know about how you can help them get that off their desk. What contracting vehicles do you have? How can you help them? Are you an 8A? Can you sole source? What are those types of things that can be utilized to help them meet those needs? So each one of these folks that are involved in a good opportunity for you, you have to be able to resonate with each one of those and cover them. And that's all part of that winnable opportunity matrix that we went through last month. Now we're going to get into disrupting the pattern and winning on GSA eBuy. This ties two separate areas of what it is that we do on a daily basis. First of all, we help folks get vehicles, and then we help folks manage the bid proposal process. We're all doing this. If you have a vehicle, you're doing this as well. So tying these pieces together, and GSA eBuy is a way to be able to see those things. So real quick, grab that worksheet because we're going to be working on this, and we're going to do a quick poll. Jamie, operate this poll for me.
Okay.
And let me know how often you check GSA eBuy. So pop that up for me, and we'll rock and roll with that.
Here we go.
All right. So how often do you check GSA eBuy? Go ahead and let us know. Hold on a second. Why is this not working? There we go. Boom. Now I can get it there. Ah, good deal. All right, so let us know. We got several times a day, once a day, couple times per week, once per week, rarely if ever. So let us know. We'll pull these pieces together, and just so you know, you're not alone. We did this yesterday, and it was right across the board. A lot of folks are checking it multiple times a day. So we'll see. We're going to talk to each one of these points as we go through this. So a couple more seconds, Jamie, and let's get.
Okay.
Come on, guys. Let's go. We'll keep this puppy rolling. All right. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and close that poll. And then let us know what we got there. Here we go. We got several times a day, 29%. Leads it again. A lot of folks checking it every day. Perfect. Love it. Once a day, a couple times per week. You can see how this works, right? So now in a little bit, we're going to be talking about what's happening as a result of that. Very good, Jamie. You can go ahead and close that one down. Let me get this back up the way it's supposed to be. That's not what I need. All right, so that goes there. Get rid of that, and boom, boom. Hang on. Boop. There we go. Bam. All right, I'm back on track. Sorry about that. And with that, we'll get into what GSA eBuy is. So we have some folks from the federal space here, I do believe. So if you want to chime in on this and how it looks from your side, we're going in through the vendor side and what it looks like from our side. So if you have some insight for us, we'll love to take it. And you can be anonymous or you can tell us who you're with. It doesn't really matter either way. But if you have some information there that you'd like to share, just chat. You can put it in the questions or chat, and we'll be glad to share that for you. So what is GSA eBuy? GSA eBuy is an online RFQ tool, request for quotation tool. They put quotes out on GSA eBuy. Some of these can look like RFPs when you see them, and some of them are very simplified, just looking for very specific things. You get to it by eBuy.gsa.gov. And it is exclusive to GSA schedule holders. If you don't have one, Jamie, what happens if you don't have a GSA schedule?
Well, if you don't have a GSA schedule, you can't play in this environment. You can never be available for these opportunities. So you need a GSA schedule, or you just can't play.
Yeah, you can't even play. So that's absolutely true. It is specific to your contract. So if you have a GSA schedule 70, you can't see GSA schedule 56, or 75 can't see 30. All those things you cannot see cross-reference between those. Additionally, it's restricted to your contract SINs, and this is why it's important for you to have SINs that are associated with your company because that's how things get let out on GSA eBuy. It operates 24/7 and email notifications come 4 times a day. Most of us that have this see these things. If you're not getting those notifications, then check it out. So then what happens after that? First of all, there's a requirement that's submitted to the procurement side and the contracting. So requirements get thrown over the fence. They need something, they need some equipment, or they need a service that needs to be fulfilled. That gets thrown over to contracting. The contracting officer decides to use eBuy. Now, remember that the contracting officer can decide to do whatever they want. They can go out to full and open competition. They can compete it between. They can go sole source with 8A. They can do. They choose the set-asides and all the components that are along with that. So will it be a set-aside will be determined as part of the eBuy. But first they're going to decide to go to GSA eBuy. Not everybody does, but in this instance, this is how it gets there. So they'll decide if it's set-aside, if it's small business, veteran-owned, service-disabled, 8A, women-owned, hub zone. They're going to make the determination of whether or not it's going to be set-aside beyond just a GSA schedule holder, because if they're on eBuy, it's already going to be set aside for a GSA schedule holder, and that is clear. So they also set the turnaround, and if we know anything about what's happening right now, 45 days turns to 30 days, turns to 15 days, turns to 7 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 when we get to September. So they will also look at how many vendors are going to be included. And what does this mean? They can go out to all of the vendors on that particular schedule under that particular set of SINs, right? They can expand the number of SINs. They can restrict the number of SINs. Or guess what? They can also go out and compete it between as little as 2. We call this shortlisting. And this happens all the time. They don't have to go out to everybody on eBuy, but they can go out and shrink that down to people that they believe are good competitors. They meet all the regulations of the FAR when they do this, by the way. A lot of times it's 3 or 5 or something like that, just for additional protection so that they have enough people responding. But they can choose this, and this is critical because we want to be one of those few. I don't want to compete against 50, and they don't want to do responses for 50 either because they got to read all that stuff. So there you go. So we're on the same page as far as that's concerned. Then they're going to determine whether it's going to be best value, lowest price, technically acceptable, or they're just going to be driven by price quote. If it's just commoditized product, oftentimes, whammo, it's the cheapest price. But there's other factors that get played into that, and we'll talk about those in just a minute. Then they're also going to determine if they're going to require a brand name or if other competing products will be acceptable. And it could be the same specifications if it's an equivalent product, right? So we know about equivalent products. All right, so then once they get done with all that and that decision, they post the opportunity and documents to GSA eBuy, and it shows up on your GSA eBuy page. Then you log in, or we log in, and we go into GSA eBuy. We collect the supporting documentation. We start the quote process if we're interested in it. So first we got to determine whether we want to bid or not. And a lot of times we see stuff, it's not even in our world, right? So then we finalize and submit the quote to eBuy. And then the contracting officer awards the contract and we can start the work on that. So let's take a look at what GSA eBuy looks like. And if we look specifically in this, this is the login screen. Most of you are familiar with this. If you've been on it, if you're new to GSA contracting, this is one of the things that you're going to get used to. All right, so here you go. You log into this screen and you can see a few things right away about what's happening on this. You go to your RFQs and you open an RFQ and it says, in this instance, says, reminder, please do not include open market items with your offer. This means that you can include open market items. Now, if it doesn't say this, then you can include open market items that are not on your GSA schedule. Here's a really important thing. As things get restricted here and the timelines get restricted in September, it becomes more and more difficult to get stuff added as you're getting your schedule done. So Jamie, tell us about how it works to be able to update this. And a lot of times it's up to GSA, but ideally we play a role in being able to shrink that timeline down too, right? Don't we?
Yes, absolutely so. Are we talking about making additions into your schedule? Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah, updated and adding products or services to your schedule.
Okay. Long story short, we'll open up your schedule, and then from there we look at your whole matrix of what's out there on your schedule itself. Then we look at the things that we want to pull off there, maybe the older products, and then reevaluate the SIN codes, because you may have had some new past performance that allows you to add new products and new categories or areas. And then from there we do a complete addition cycle that would match up to your current past performance, get it off to GSA, and then we go through an approval process, which is pretty short, which we're working with an approved schedule. And then once the approved those products are approved, we go back out to GSA Advantage, upload the new elements, and then that's completed on your schedule. And once the CO reviews that, they turn it on and make the new upload live. And we handle that painful SIP upload as well. So get that thing completely off your desk and get your schedule absolutely current.
Right. And so no matter what, that's what you need to do. You can either do it yourself or otherwise. So getting back to this, you can tell if there's market items that can be included there. The other piece is when it's issued, when it's due. Very important information, right? Then there's key description information that comes in, and the documents that are associated with it. Sometimes there's none, and other times there's 25 of them. So if you've been in this long enough, you know what I'm talking about. So you have those. Then there's a place to be able to fill out for how long your quote is good for, what the items are. Sometimes there's line items that are associated with this, and sometimes there aren't, and you have to fill it in yourself. But then you have your quote for each individual item, and that tabulates that. And you get to a place then where you have a prompt payment discount that you can incorporate, and how long, whether it's FOB destination or FOB origin, right? So you can choose those things. There's a place to be able to attach additional documents, and then any of the vendor comments that you'd like to do if you have some particular things that you want to communicate to the folks that are involved there. So those are the pieces that that happen. Then you do your submission to GSA eBuy. Some of the important and useful information that I like to include about this. First, the contracting officer can use eBuy for more than just RFQs. Somebody mentioned it before about RFIs. Market research can be done here, and what this is a request for information that's put out on eBuy, where they'll entertain $0 quotes, and I'll show you how some of that shows up as well. And what is happening? I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go.
Got a question too for Bob Thomas, Dave. Will eBuy give you an award history?
No, but I'll tell you how you can get one. I can tell you how you can do that. So great question.
And also answer your other one too, Bob. Short timeline on adding products. Way shorter compared to getting the schedule in the first place, because sometimes that can sit out there for a couple of months. But normally when we do a revision, we got to turn around typically around a month as far as from start to finish, including the approval and upload.
And if there's something that's hot that you want on there, we can get a lot of times we can get to the contracting officer and get those through quicker. So we've done that as well, as little as 3 or 4 days in some instances. Depends on the contracting officer though. So we'll work. We can talk about that too. This is another play. And real quick, let me get through these. RFI request for information. They're also going to determine if the set aside will work in this instance. So the important thing is, we'll talk about with that set aside. Make sure you respond for that. Make sure you're doing responses, because if you don't, then it may go out to everybody if you're not a small business and you can't show you're qualified. So they can cancel the RFQ at any time, and the volume of opportunities that hit depends on your contract type. Like a Schedule 70, hundreds of them are hitting every day, hundreds, and it will probably get to a place where it's 100 an hour. That's what usually happens in September, as we've looked at this in the past. So the volume depends on your contract type, and the turnarounds will shrink as we get towards September. So making sure that your responses are ready to go in that, and making sure you're paying attention. So very good about that. So let's talk about why you miss RFQs on eBuy. So I know that you miss RFQs on eBuy because we miss RFQs on eBuy sometimes, and I'm going to tell you how you can keep from missing those in just a minute. So go ahead and launch that poll for us, Jamie. And
give me a second here.
And pop that out for us. All right. So here's why we miss. You forget to log in. You don't have time to sift through the bids. It's hard to know what's good for your company. I forgot about a bid and missed the deadline, or I can't keep up in August and September. And I can tell you that everybody has done at least one of these themselves, if not more. So you can choose as many of you as you like, because guess what? If we're honest with ourselves, we're going to tell the truth, and we probably all have fallen into each one of these categories. But depending on your schedule, sometimes there's not a lot that hits the eBuy on your schedule. So I can appreciate that last one. So let's give them another maybe 10 seconds there, Jamie, and we'll close that out. So let us know about this, and we're going to talk about specifically how you can avoid some of those pieces.
Okay, get ready.
All right, 3, 2, 1. There you go. And pop up the responses there. Everybody, just know that you're not alone. Everybody's losers every once in a while because they forget or they miss these eBuy opportunities in some form or fashion. And you can see that you're not alone, and that's why we wanted to make sure that we put that in there for you. So absolutely want to appreciate the fact that you guys responded honestly with that. So with that, we'll keep on rolling so you can close that down. So the next part is, in order to win on GSA eBuy, first of all, you need to check often, regularly, in order to be able to facilitate that, right? That has to happen on a regular basis. Secondarily, you need to go out and get organized and make sure that you're pulling those pieces together. One of the pieces that I found as we started doing more and more eBuy work is we had to deal with a plethora of attachments and the quotes and how to keep these things organized. So That was one of the pieces. And we're going to talk about a little bit about Quick Fuse. It's an automated eBuy engine. And what this does is crazy cool for when we get into, especially this time of year. And what Quick Fuse is it automatically sends you, as soon as it hits eBuy, it sends you a notification that something is there. And quickly, if you're looking for small business set-asides or certain set-asides, it says it right in the subject line, as well as soon as you open it up, you can see it. You can see that it's set aside for small business, and it gives you all the information right there. It tells you when it's due, it tells you how much time you have, and it shows you the part numbers and the pieces, so you can quickly understand whether or not this is something that fits in your sweet spot. Because as we know, a lot of things that hit eBuy they're not even close to what we do, right? So if we're looking for maybe 3 to 5% of the stuff that hits our GSA schedule, because it's too wide of a market. So, but the ones that we do want to know about, we got to know about those quickly so that we can formulate those responses and decide whether we want to bid. What I love more than anything else about this is the attachments are there so that I can see them. You can open it up, I can see it, I can say, okay, this really does. So first of all, it gives me a cursory overview, and if there's not enough details there, bam, I can open up the attachments and we can see the technical specifications so that we can decide whether we want to bid. All this can happen within about 15 seconds. And if you're logging in and downloading the stuff and opening this stuff, you're talking about minutes, sometimes hours a week, in order to be able to facilitate this, to find the stuff that's really good for you. And a lot of folks get really frustrated with this. A lot of people get very frustrated because they log in, and nothing good, nothing good, nothing good, nothing good. And then they say, well, I shouldn't even log on. Next thing you know, you missed something that was good for you. Then you make a decision whether you want to bid or not. Once you click this button, it puts you into a cycle of saying, hey, and for those of us who said, I'm forgetting about bids, this will help you remember, because it'll remind you every day that you have this bid due. And the last day, it's built in to remind you every 2 hours to get that thing in until you either submit it or say, I don't want to do it anymore, okay? The next piece is you can choose the no bid, and then it won't even pay attention anymore about what's happening, or you can choose to watch. And what this does for you is it lets you know that, hey, you did want to take a look at this, and maybe it's tangential to your market space, or you're a small sub-segment of that particular bid that you may want to reach out to some other folks, right? So this is just being able to administer, and most of this happens very quickly. And Quick Fuse shoots it over to you in a matter of minutes. It's in your email. So the other piece of it is, whether you're using Quick Fuse or not, you collect all the buyer and the receiver information. There's 2 folks potentially that are contacts on your GSA eBuy. So what does this do for you? First of all, it gives you your name, address, phone number, or email of the people that are buying what you sell. How important are these people? These are critically important to you. Whether or not you bid on this, it doesn't even matter. But you want to make sure you're collecting all that information. And this is the way it looks like in Quick Fuse, where you can see there's 2 separate folks, and you have the destination where things are going to be sent to, and then you have the individual person. Now, Dina happens to be on both of these. She's the buyer and the receiving person. But a lot of times, if you're paying attention, you'll see that those are 2 different people. And guess what? Some of those folks are actually on the program side of the house, or they're the technical representatives that report to the program side of the house. Very important folks. So the other piece is, make sure you're submitting quotes. If you don't submit quotes, then you're kind of like, I'm not going to pay attention to that. Submit quotes. If it's in your world, submit the quotes, because it'll get you in a position to be able to see where you are from a profitability standpoint. You'll get to know how much it is winning for, and that way next time you'll have a better idea of what you need to do in order to be competitive. The other reason is simple. Gives you a reason to pick up the phone and talk to them. And you can ask them simple questions about that. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the power moves with that. So the other piece is track your patterns and your successes. Who was that? Bob that just asked that question? Can we see? Yep. Can we see? Right, Bob.
Can we see the? Let's see. Let me find it here.
Because you asked a question about, can you see the patterns of when people do this? Yes, you can, but you got to be tracking it. And the beauty of,
exactly.
Right? So he was asking, is there a list of awards? And the answer is yes, but it's not there. Quick Fuse does it, and I'll show you a couple things about that too. The other piece that's really, really cool, and this is new and it's beta testing and all that stuff, but take a look at this. What if you had the top 6 folks on GSA Advantage when you got that and said, okay, here's where the numbers are from the top 6 people on GSA Advantage of how their pricing lines up. Now, if they're not paying attention and logging in on eBuy, and they're not winning, that's fine. But this is why you bid and you put submissions in and you find out who is actually doing the responses. Because if you do this right, then you'll be able to do exactly what you said, Bob. You'll be able to track it, you'll be able to see what your profitability is, and you'll be able to come to a place to know whether or not you have the ability to win and how you can win. So here's some power moves. Bob, I'm going to talk directly to you because I know what you do. And the answer is very specific. First, get special pricing. You know what special pricing looks like on products. If you're doing commoditized products, you can go to the manufacturer and you can get special pricing. How? If you're the first one to respond, then a lot of times, many times, not all the time, but sometimes you can get special pricing from the manufacturer. Now, some of those folks will not give you special pricing because it's already an active bid, right? We all know this. A lot of folks know this. So the other piece is looking for J&A. It's called Limited Source Justification and Approval. If there isn't a justification and approval, then an equivalent is acceptable. I'm going to say this again because this is key. If there is no J&A attached, then eBuy automatically makes it automatically an equivalent is acceptable. So if you know your specs 1-to-1 on your products, then an equivalent is acceptable. So if the OEM manufacturer will not give you special pricing on it, how about not going to the OEM and going to a competitor and get special pricing? And we're going to talk specifically about how to do that right now. And the answer is look for part number items, line them up, and then make sure that you're collecting that information and shooting it out. There's actually a process that can be done on Quick Fuse as well that will automatically notify you on specific item numbers. Very, very cool. It's the advanced pro version kind of thing, but it can be done. But if you do this, if you have 375 toner cartridges, Bob, because I know that's what you do. If you have 375 toner cartridges, would you get special pricing from a manufacturer? Potentially, maybe. Maybe you can. And maybe not from the OEM if it's Hewlett-Packard, but if there's no J&A, and there wasn't one, because it's a competition report, there's no J&A, that means this Hewlett-Packard HEWCE 255A, of which there's 375, 2 different orders of 375 each. Guess what? You can. And that's a pretty decent size order. So you can probably get some special pricing from your competitor, from a competitive product. Be proactive. This is huge, folks. This is huge. Being proactive, going out and getting the buyers. What does that mean? Well, we talked about this before. First of all, Quick Fuse collects all the data. And it collects it so that you can download it and import it into a CRM, InfoStrat if you don't have one. But Salesforce, anything, you can download it, CSV it, put it up in your and put it into a proactive follow-up. Now, my recommendation is anybody that's landing on your schedule, you should be after. Why? Because guess what? They might not be buying on eBuy what you sell, but they buy other products that are, let's say, Schedule 70, technical products. And if you're at Schedule 70, they're buying off Schedule 70, get in front of those people and you have both sides of the house. So you can do some research and you can narrow down the folks that really are buying what you sell. So what do we need to do? First, we want to get them to like us. We want to make sure that we know if that same quote is coming again. Bob, to your point, when is that going to happen again? Because if we didn't get special pricing last time, maybe we can get it next time. And you can see the regularity where they're buying things. Beautiful thing. And what else is on their plate? Something else that you may be supplying. Do they need a sample scope of work or specs to go into that sample, into that scope of work? And how about creating a BPA? Every agency creates BPAs. Some of the contracting officers don't really know how to do it, so maybe you need to help them. But how much better would it be for them if they're buying things repetitively and you give them a really, really good price because you get a special price from the manufacturer, you create a BPA, you get $1 million, and you do $50,000 calls all year long. Beautiful. That's exactly where we want to live. And that's why a lot of stuff doesn't hit GSA eBuy. It doesn't hit FBO. And it will never hit those because it's just repetitive business on a contract vehicle that it's exclusive to you and with that agency. But it could be even a government-wide BPA. Sometimes that makes your head explode, so we'll leave that for another conversation another day. But the answers are right here. These folks, you can go after them, find out how they're buying, answer those key questions with them to be able to do that. So how does this help you looking at that winnability matrix that we did before? It helps you by getting ahead of the RFI or the RFQ. And it gets you in front of these folks so that you're having dialogue so that you can start to insert what's important for them to help them save money or help them do their job better, whatever it is. Getting them inside, getting inside under the tent where those incumbents are so that you become the incumbent that are fighting everybody else off. But we know that the incumbents have this tremendous advantage, and we want to be those people. And if we play the game right, we can get in under the tent and we can start pushing some of those incumbents out and winning some of those dollars for ourselves. So do this right, and you will find opportunities that will never hit FBO. You'll get ahead of the RFQ and RFPs. You'll find limited competition opportunities being restricted, making sure that it's only going out to a few. That's a beautiful thing. And you'll be able to build relationships with the key decision makers. There's several folks that mentioned that earlier on. Being able to find the people that make the decisions that buy what you sell. That's critical. And that's what gets you to a place where you're absolutely crushing your GSA sales. So there you go. That's what we're talking about. Now, real quick, I'm going to do, so what you know about Quick Fuse so far, pop open that and tell us how you feel like Quick Fuse can help you get to where you want to go, and then I'll tell you about a special offer for Quick Fuse in just a minute. But go ahead and open that up. And it saves time logging in and organizing RFQs. All of these things are appropriate. So if these are types of things that you would like, what would be most beneficial to you? Help you to remember to submit a quote, track people that buy what you sell. Again, Bob, that's right in your wheelhouse. And being able to obtain special pricing. So we'll leave that open for a couple more seconds, and we'll provide you some links to be able to get to Quick Fuse. And by the way, it's QUIKFUSE. There's no C in there, so if you're searching for it, it's not going to pop up with a C in it. All right, go ahead, Jamie. Let's shut that down, and you can share that with everybody. So you know you're not alone. 20%, 10%. Being able to quickly determine what you bid on, I'm telling you, that's huge. But tracking people buy what you sell, absolutely positively critical. Critical to being able to get into a proactive process and get you to the place where you can also be winning. So that's how Quick Fuse can help you.